Welcome to Podnutz Daily, episode number 283, the show for computer repair technicians by computer repair technicians. I just made that up, that slogan. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it, Kevin?
Sure.
Joining us is Kevin Wisher today, and he's calling us from kwdesign-consulting.com. That's his website. And he's a computer repair technician. And what we do on the show is we have technicians come on the show, and they talk about what they're doing in the computer repair field. They talk about jobs they're doing, business tips, successful actions, stuff like that. And hopefully you guys can get something out of it and use it in your own business. So let's get right into it here. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Doing fine, Steve. How's it down in sunny and warm Florida?
You summed it up right there.
It's kind of cold and miserable here in north central Indiana right now.
Is that why you're warming up with that beer there, or what?
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
It's Kugel something. I got a variety pack. I think it's a Honey Weiss.
What's the name of the company, the brewery?
Kugels. It's out of Wisconsin, I believe, is where the brewery is.
It's good stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. I haven't tried that. I got to try one. I've made an attempt to, wherever I go, whatever bar or restaurant I go to, I try to order a beer that I've never had before. And I'm
not sure if they distribute down there in Florida or not.
I haven't seen them. But that technique does not. Sometimes it works out well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you get the beer on the end of the tap that's all skunked that nobody ever drinks, so it's just been sitting there forever. And yeah. Anyway, what how's things going with your business?
Oh, pretty slow on my side business. I don't have a whole lot to report here. That's why I kind of chose some topics from my day job as a network administrator at my local school system. Some of it can be, carried over into the tech repair business also. So they kind of go hand in hand. So
yeah, no problem. That's fine with me. But I have to say, the word on the street is everybody's slow. Maybe it's the holidays. I don't know what it is, but almost everybody I've talked to is going through slow times right now. So
yeah, I just have the normal malware cleaning, and I recently just built a new system for some friends' parents down the road from me. So nothing real out of the ordinary, but everybody else is seeing. So.
That's cool. It'll pick up. That's the way the business is. I know when I was running, it was like some weeks were slow, some weeks were hot, and it all averaged out. But we'll see what happens.
I did get a request to quote a new eye doctor that's coming to town to set up his business. So that's going to be something new for me.
Oh, cool. Well, you say you're a network administrator, right, at a school?
Yes.
Well, at least you have some experience with that. I mean, at least small business, school, big.
Well, I don't know if you remember. I think from the last time let's see, it had been last May. Yeah, it would have been. I fell into this job, kind of just fell into it. I wasn't really qualified for it, so I've been kind of learning as I go. The guy that hired me was my geometry teacher in high school, and he worked his way up into being technology director at the school. And
oh yeah, I remember that. You talked your way into it.
I volunteered last summer when I was laid off to help install some projector systems, and then he kind of got me hired as a contractor to do the rest of the projectors, and then I kept bugging him about the job, and he got me in. So
how did it go then since last we talked?
It's been a big learning experience, I tell you. You can set up all the networking you want at your house, but it doesn't compare to a big network. So
But you're making it go right though. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Thought I'd start out from where we left after the last time I was on back in May.
Sure.
What I did over the summer. This is a full-time job. It's not like being a teacher where you're off the summer. So during the summer, we get to do all the big projects that we can't do when the kids are in session. So this year they decided that they were going to try a netbook pilot with 100 machines. 2 classes of 5th grade we're getting. Each student gets their own netbook. and there's 2 classes in the high school that got them. So got these netbooks in. They're Dell Latitude 2110s. They're pretty nice little machines. In fact, that's what I'm doing this podcast on right now. They got the real high resolution screen. It's still a 10-inch screen, but they're the higher resolution. They're really nice LCD screen on them. We got them in. I know you're probably familiar with Dells, but they came with pre-installed with XP Pro. But they had, of course, we had the Windows 7 upgrade option, but we're not really set up for Windows 7 yet, so that's why we downgraded to the XP Pro. So they came pre-installed, and so I took one machine and started installing all the software that the school that our students are going to be using. And we have and then I made an image of that so I could just blast the image to all the rest of the machines. Well, there was something about the way Dell did their install that this image you could push the image up to the server, but when you imaged it back to them, when they restarted, they'd blue screen every one of them. And so I ended up, and I even tried 2 different imaging processes. One I'm going to be talking about here on the next topic was a fog imaging server, and the one we had in place before I set up the fog server was from Novell, which we're instead of being Microsoft Windows Active Directory type system, we're using the Novell server operating system.
So,
but
so
it had it. Novell has its own imaging system that it did, and so I reverted back to it, and it did the same thing. When you pushed the image up and reloaded it, it's still blue screen. So I could not figure out, if that just told me something was wrong, since 2 different imaging systems wouldn't restore the image correctly. So ended up, I wiped the hard drive completely, took out the Dell, whatever that partition is they put on there, the utility partition they put at the front of the drive, and just reinstalled XP from scratch and got everything back the way it was, and voila, it worked. So I cannot, still to this day, I don't know what XP did that caused the problem.
So they came with XP Pro, you said, not Windows 7.
Right.
And
you had to when you purchased them, you had to specify that you wanted XP Pro downgrade. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we got the Windows 7 disk with them that we can upgrade to in the future if we decide to, but we're just not ready for Windows 7 yet.
Gotcha. Oh, that's cool. But you tried to image the drive and just put it on all the notebooks.
Yeah.
What software did you use to image?
Well, before we got the netbooks in, I was telling you that the Novell had a imaging server built in with their server package. Well, before I got the netbook Pro, the netbooks came in, I was working on the images for the, towards the end of last year, I was working on a new image for the upcoming year, and I was having the same issues with the Novell Zen servers. ZenWorks is what it's called in the Novell. And when I restore an image, I was getting blue screen, so that's what led me to look for other options on the imaging. And I ran across, I'd heard about this fog project on some open source podcast. Can't remember which one it was, but so I started looking into that a little bit more, and then I listened to a podcast, and I think I just heard the last episode and said you were appeared on it, was for the Tightwad Tech
right
podcast. They said the recording got messed up, so it's kind of like the missing episode, they said.
It is definitely the missing episode. It was a shame too. I gave it my all for those guys.
That's what they said. They said he was really disappointed. But anyway, I'd heard about this fog open, free imaging server that you could, you can just download it and install it. And so I thought I'd give that a go. We had a spare server, and it runs off of. You have to install it on a Debian Ubuntu based or Red Hat CentOS Linux uh, distribution. And it's real simple to do. You just install your Ubuntu and download the package from the Fog website, and the wiki has step-by-step directions to get it up and going, and it's really a nice system. If anybody listens to the Tightwad Tech, and I highly recommend it if you work in a school technical position of any kind, they have all kinds of tips, and these guys are down in Texas and work at a small school system. Sounds kind of like what we are, and maybe a little bit bigger than I am. They got 2 guys, and I'm just me. And so
they have a good niche. It's an interesting podcast because it's all they tie everything in, not everything, but they tie a lot of stuff into the education field.
Right.
You probably would. It fits right into what you're doing.
Yeah, I really like that and pick up a lot of useful tips from them. So anyway, after I heard them, their podcast with the developers of the Fog server project, that's when I decided to make the leap and got it set up, and it works really slick. And it could even, I think it could even work for a technician at home who maybe would want to, after they get a customer's machine all clean and set up the way they want it, they can capture an image to their server, Fog server at home. Now, of course, when they come back, they're going to get the same image that you made. It won't be, but at least it'll be a quick way to get back to where you were if you have troublesome customers that are always getting malware.
Now, wait a minute.
I don't.
So, but okay, this is cool, but you tried this and it was blue screening on all your machines.
Well, that was before I wiped the Dell factory install and did it myself. Like I said, there was something in the way Dell made the installed, it would not image correctly until I completely wiped it, reinstalled XP, and got all the software back on it.
Gotcha. How did you reinstall XP? With a Dell disk?
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. I gotcha.
So I don't know, like I say, I don't know what Dell, how they did it or what.
They've always had funky partitions. I don't know what they have them on the netbook, but they usually have that media center partition.
Yeah, they had that utility partition, and so I took that off and just made it one big partition.
Yeah, I remember them. They're kind of funky. So so once you wiped it, so then now you're able to use the fog imaging server.
Oh yeah.
And it's at fogproject.org. Let me pull that up.
I can image one of these netbooks in about 20 minutes. It's all it takes to get it, back to a working condition.
Does it do it over the network? You just have to put put the netbook, hook it up through Ethernet, and it'll image it? Right.
It works off of the network booting. I call it Pixie booting, PXE boot. So that's the way it pushes and pulls all the images right over the network. So all the images are stored on the Fog server, and you only have to visit the client machines one time, and once you get an image back on there with there's a small Fog client you install for Windows, then any other time you need to image that, I can image any machine in the corporation as long as it's on our network from any web browser. So if a teacher calls and says, hey, I got this virus, I don't even bother visiting their machine. I just say, I scheduled the new image to come down to them. I said, reboot your machine. And
wait, you don't tell them, you don't tell them, take all your data off this computer first, right?
Well, we've got the teachers, most of the teachers, they've got their own network storage.
Okay.
None of their personal files are stored on their local machine.
Gotcha.
At least they're not supposed to for cases like this.
Gotcha. So they know better. They know better. When you tell them reboot their computer, they know what's coming.
Right. And I got this from the Tightwad Tech. They have what they call a 20-minute rule. If they can't fix your machine in 20 minutes, you're getting a new image.
That's a good rule. I like that.
So, it's going to take more than 20 minutes to clean malware. So,
very cool.
I don't even bother. If they tell me, oh, I got these pop-ups going all over my screen, I can't get to my desktop, you know, it's not even worth me walking to the room and looking at it. So
You're like an imageaholic now. They're like, I can't open Word, re-image.
you're basically right. Like I say, if it takes more than 20 minutes to figure out something, it's not worth my time. It's not worth their time to be down,
right?
Not being able to do it, use their computer in the class. So
that's pretty cool. I like it.
So anyway, once, like I say, you just have to visit each client one time. When the Pixie, we got all of our machines to boot off the network is the first option on the boot. The Fog displays this brief menu screen for like 3 seconds, or you can set the time up to whatever you want, or no menu at all, or whatever. But I just kind of left it at the default, so you get that Fog menu, and you run the machine through a registration process to the Fog server, and it records the MAC address of the NIC card. That's how it keeps track of each machine, and it puts all your machines in a database. Then once you got them into the database, you can group them in groups. Like I can take a whole lab and group them into one group, and if that whole lab needs a new image, I can image that whole lab of 30 machines at one time. I
wow.
just click on that group, say re-image, and I don't even have to visit the lab. It starts all by itself.
That's awesome.
So I can do it like after hours. You know, I can start it right before I leave and come back in the next morning, and it only takes about an hour to do a whole lab. So
it looks like they have an iPhone app too. Have you used that?
No, I don't have an iPhone.
Okay, that would explain it.
I'm anti-Apple, so.
You're anti what?
Anti-Apple.
That's fine. That's fine. You never owned one. You never owned one, right?
They make it fine. I mean, they make excellent hardware, but I just can't afford that kind of stuff. So.
Have you ever owned one, even a used one?
No.
Okay. My theory holds true.
I do have an iPad, but it was given to me. It belongs to the school. We're also doing a iPad Pilot too. So we have.
Are you anti-iPad?
I guess I don't. I mean, it's neat and it's cool. I haven't found any productive use for it yet to use it as a work machine, work device. My son gets more use out of it than I do.
What does he do on it?
Oh, everything, all these games and watching Netflix movies. And
I'll tell you,
more of a consumption device.
That's exactly how that's used. I'll tell you who gets more use out of an iPad than I know. Everybody that I know, this person gets more use out of his iPad than anyone. It's my dad. He wakes up in the morning, flips on the iPad, reads all his content, does emails, and he plays games on it. He watches MLB through the MLB actually has its own app. He uses it more than anyone. So there are people that are using it.
Right.
They exist out there.
And we're still trying to figure out how it can be used in the school system for the kids.
Yeah, I don't know. Netbooks might be better for that.
What we're finding is the fifth graders that have got the netbooks are kind of finding that maybe that may be too complicated for them yet at that age.
Yeah.
I do more re-imaging of those machines than the high schoolers, because they're always messing up the operating system somehow.
Fifth graders.
So I end up imaging maybe 2 or 3 of those a week.
Cool. All right, what else do you want to go over?
Back to these Dell netbooks. These are really slick little units to work on. I've had to replace 2 bad hard drives, and I don't know whether these are just bad from the factory or whether the kids have dropped them or done something to them. But it's kind of ironic that both of them are fifth graders that had to have their hard drives replaced.
So if they have real hard drives, they don't have SSDs, huh?
Correct.
Okay.
They, matter of 8 screws. It doesn't have an access panel. They got these covers on them that are kind of a grippy, rubbery cover on the top and bottom, on the lid and on the bottom.
Okay.
So they make it, make gripping it and really nice to carry around. They're not slippery or leave fingerprints.
They seem really slick. I pulled up some pictures of it while we were doing the show.
Yeah, and so like 8 screws. You've got the back panel off. You take the whole back panel off, and you can get to the wireless card, the memory, and the hard drive, and it's a matter of total time of 45 minutes to rip the hard drive out. Of course, I got to wait to. We've got the Dell extended warranty on them, so I just call them and have them ship me a new hard drive. I get that next day, so it's a total about 45 minutes to replace a hard drive, and that's including putting a new image on it and everything.
That's good.
So they're really pretty slick. One student must have left hers laying around the house because somebody stepped on it on the top side on the lid. So you can actually see the footprint in the LCD when you turn it on.
Really?
So, but since that's not covered under warranty, and I don't know if anybody that works in the school system, that there's so much red tape in getting stuff ordered. If it costs over $100, you have to get 3 quotes and blah blah yada this and a bunch of red tape. Even though this has to come directly from Dell, I've ordered it maybe a month ago and still haven't got the screen in yet.
Oh man,
so
what?
I know it's ridiculous. So I don't know whether it's on our end because of the way schools have to order things, or whether it's on Dell's end. I imagine it's probably our end, because anytime I need something, it's a minimum of a month to get it.
That's not acceptable.
I know, but that's the way it works.
Guess so. Yeah, they look slick, but they're expensive, I think. What's the processor they have in them? They're like $425 according to this website.
It's a dual core.
It is?
Let me see here.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. If you knew offhand, that'd be one thing.
It's the standard Atom dual core processor.
Okay.
Came with 1 gig of RAM. They're actually pretty snappy.
Are they? Okay. It must just be Skype. It must just be Skype that's flaky then. You'll see your video. You'll see your video when you watch the video on the show. It's not a good Skype machine. Let's put it that way.
Oh, is it? I'm
getting your video, but I'm seeing like your frame rate is like every 2 seconds your frame changes.
Looking at my little.
Are you on wireless?
No.
Oh man.
Got my little process meter. It looks like it's kind of about 75%.
Yeah. It's an interesting experiment though, because I was going to use netbooks as my Skype machines, and I ended up just using one computer running 3 versions of Skype. But that's just because I had the computer laying around. But I was interested when you said you were using a netbook, how it was going to turn out.
Well, on the previous show I was on, of course, we weren't using video. I was using my personal netbook, which is actually probably a slower machine than this one.
You know what? We weren't doing video, but it might not be your end. I am getting a weak signal. It's either my end or your end. I still haven't really determined if my end is as good as I think it is yet, so don't worry about it. We can still hear you fine. All right, what else?
Okay, so anyway, I'm going to say I'm waiting on a new LCD for these. It looks like I haven't. I got downloaded Dell's got some nice teardown instructions off their website. It's kind of like got some animated HTML files. You just download and extract it to a folder, and you start the main, index file, and it's got a table of contents for the particular thing you're working on. It's got hot links to everything you need to go. Like if it says refer to this section before you do this, it'll jump you back, and it's got little animated GIFs or whatever. It's not video, but it's animated things on how to tear them down. So That's pretty nice.
That's cool.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how this LCD comes out. Looks like if it's like their notebooks that we use, they're pretty simple. That's one of the simplest LCDs I've ever taken out.
It should be a piece of cake. I don't know. I never replaced a screen on a netbook.
Yeah, me either. This will be a first. Okay. Next topic. I spoke about installing projector systems last summer. Well, this summer we did some more. We did, I think, 21 more systems. No, we didn't do it. It was like 16 more systems this summer. They kind of blend together. And the boards that we installed are called smart boards, and I got a link there in the show notes. But they're really a neat device. It's like a big mouse pad. When you project the image on, you're projecting your computer image onto this whiteboard, smart board, and you calibrate it like you would what I call those pads that artists use,
The Wacom
tab. Yeah, stuff like it's kind of like that. You calibrate the board. It has a little calibration utility. You calibrate it so that and you can actually walk up to it and use your finger. You can drag folders. You can open folders. You can use your finger and use it. If you use it comes with 4 different colored electronic markers, which aren't markers, but when you use them on the board, they show up as the respective colors, so teachers and students can write right on the board.
That's freaking amazing. That's awesome.
It's really amazing what they can do with them, and and then they can also show web video right on there on the screen, so they can go to all these educational sites and show video from YouTube or wherever that we allow them to go to.
They're great. I mean, I haven't used one, but I could see on the website it's smarttech.com if you guys want to check out these whiteboard projectors.
And then I think you can use any type of projector that you want, and then I think we use Sharp projectors, and then the mounting system is called a pole vault projector system, and it's made by a company, Extron, and it's just a ceiling mount kit, and includes all the wiring to connect the board to the projector and then back to the computer. And it took to me to do a system by myself from start to finish. This is including running. You got to run a network cable attached to your network, the projector. 6 to 8 hours I could do a room by myself. Over the summer we had there's 3 of us in the tech department at our school. The technology director, which he's the boss of the other 2 of us, and he helps out occasionally during the summer. And then the other person is our technology instructor. His job at the school is to teach the teachers how to use the technology that we have available to them. So he's actually a teacher. He's not he works under a teacher contract, where I work under I guess I'm classified as a non-classified employee, but so he worked during the summer and helped out. So we had 3 of us at times working on them. So we was doing like 2 rooms a day if all 3 of us could stay, busy.
Your school must have some money to invest in this, because this stuff does not look cheap.
It's not cheap, but the 2 projects we did, last summer and the 2 summers, it's all come from grants. That's how we get our money.
How much is this stuff?
I don't know. I'm not in charge of any purchasing or.
Because it looks awesome. It looks awesome. I wish I had it when I was in school.
I know. It's just. I mean, it's really neat, and I imagine you could use it. I mean, even outside of the educational field. I mean, they'd be neat for like a business and a board, in a conference room and stuff like that too. But it's really cool what the kids can do. I mean, teachers have it set up to where the first thing in the morning at the elementary, the cafeteria wants an exact count of how many kids are eating their lunch and how many kids bring their lunch. So the teacher has this electronic form up on the whiteboard, on the smart board, and the kids come up and select whether they're dining in or brought their lunch, and that gets sent to the cafeteria. So, I mean, it's got all kinds of uses.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Really amazing. And then once, anything the teacher writes on that board can actually be captured as a file.
Really?
So they can actually, reuse that if it's something they want to, or in the high school, then there's a teacher who really took advantage of it. She'll capture her notes and then make that available to the students via our Moodle site that we have.
A what site?
So a Moodle, it's kind of like Blackboard. I don't know if you're familiar with those two.
No.
There's a Moodle's the open source free version of a paid application called Blackboard that colleges use, and you can set up online classes and get your grades from it and stuff like that.
Huh.
But we have a Moodle server, and teachers can post electronic notes from their whiteboard, and the students can log in and get their notes that way, or from home or school, so they have access to it at home. My son happens to be in the class that this teacher I'm speaking of that really utilizes it, so he was I never logged in as a student, so I was watching him one night here at home log into it and seeing all the stuff she was posting on there, and it's amazing.
Really? Damn, that's great. I love this stuff.
So basically he doesn't even have to take notes in class. He can just download her stuff that she writes up on that board and capture it.
Man, I want to go back to school. No, I don't.
I was thinking that the each pole vault system, now this is just the mounting system for the projector, doesn't include the projector. The mounting system was like around $1,200, and each projector was like, somewhere in that same neighborhood, and I think the boards themselves are the actually cheapest part of it, so they were like around $700. So
Damn.
You may be looking at $2,500 to $3,000 per room.
Damn. It's cool though.
Yeah, and they really help out in the
Cool.
educational.
All right, what do you got here about a Linux PC router?
Well, I heard I listened to the first Podnutz Pro show this week, and I heard the Rainey. Is that his name, Rainey?
Matt Rainey.
Yeah, he was talking about business routers, and I'm either going to send an email or a voicemail in for your next show to ask whether these Linux you can download. I have 4 listed here in the short show notes. I've used 2 of these, and in fact, I'm using the Smoothwall Express here at home. You can install this. You just download this ISO. It's a Linux distribution that's pre-made to be a router, and all it takes is any old computer with 2 NIC cards. So you got an incoming and an outgoing NIC card.
We just talked about this on Linux for the Rest of Us. This is, Dor just went over a bunch of. He was using them for firewalls, just as open source firewalls, which this is as well. Yep. But and it's probably the same type of thing.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. The reason I tried this is because my Linksys cable router started acting up on me, and for just my network. I have to get the 8-port cable router, and those are like $80 to $100 a pop, and it always seemed like every 2 years I was having to replace one of these. They go wonky on me.
Right.
So I was sensing my current one was getting ready to go out, so I decided to try this, and I had an old computer laying around, and it's nothing. I mean, it's like a 1.4 gigahertz AMD with 512 megabytes of RAM. It's nothing spectacular at all, and just installed it had a onboard NIC, and so I just slapped in another NIC card in a PCI slot and installed this smooth wall and hook it into your network and do a little, once you get it installed, you can unhook it from your monitor and keyboard, so it can be, set off in a closet somewhere. You don't need a monitor, and you log into it, while you're just like any other router through a web page, and do all your configurations for it. So I excuse me. Like I said, I've been experimenting with the 2 of them. Tried the ClearOS and the Smoothwall, and I kind of like the Smoothwall better, so that's what I'm currently running. The other 2, the Untangle and the PFSense, seem like, to me, I've kind of looked at them, but not really used them. Look like they're maybe for larger environments, and
I don't know if they're for larger environments. It's funny you bring this list. This is exactly what we talked about on Linux for the Rest of Us. All of these things you mentioned.
I must not have haven't heard that.
No, we
episode yet.
literally just did it. I know I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's neat that you're looking for a router alternative. He was looking for a firewall. I think a firewall. Yeah, just a firewall.
Yeah, it acts like a gateway, a firewall, and a router.
These are all good stuff. We got Smoothwall at smoothwall.org, ClearOS at clearfoundation.com, Untangle at untangle.com, and PFSense at pfsense.org. All can do it.
And there was another one I didn't put in the list. I didn't even look at that. I can't even remember what. I don't know if you're familiar with the podcast Linux in the Ham Shack.
No.
One of the hosts was talking about one. I can't even remember. Viata, that's the name of it. And he said it kind of mimics. In fact, if people are real familiar with Cisco stuff, hardware, that it can actually emulate the Cisco commands, which I'm not familiar with. So that's kind of why I never really tried it.
Right. That sounds cool.
But anybody that's tired of doing what, like I said, I was doing, it was buying cable routers for your home that are cheapy little things that burn out every 2 years. This is a nice solution, and it gives you a little bit more control over your bandwidth. You got bandwidth, QoS controls, and you can lock out instant messaging if you don't want your kids on there. You can doing stuff like that, peer-to-peer stuff. You get all kinds of controls of what kind of traffic you can get in. And
so which one did you decide on?
Right now I'm running the Smoothwall.
Is it working good?
Yeah, works real good.
Huh. On what kind of box?
Yeah. Like I say, it's just like an old AMD. I think it's a 1.4 gigahertz Athlon. I mean, it's one of the older ones that I've gotten from a customer.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You put the 2 NIC cards in.
Right.
Gotcha.
Well, any of these take at least 2 NIC. You have to have a minimum of 2 NIC cards, one for incoming and one for outgoing.
Right.
And if you want to get real fancy, you can actually put in a third or a fourth and use one of those as a what do they call it? It's not like a sandbox, but it's
like a VPN.
Well, you can do VPN. Yeah, you can actually dedicate one for VPN, and then what the heck do they call that? Where you put one out there where you can allow traffic in, but it stops at. I'm a network administrator. I can't.
You would know the answer better than me. We'll see if the chat room can help us out. Don't worry about it.
Well, anyway, you can actually do more than 2, but it takes 2 at a minimum to do incoming and outgoing traffic.
Rain, he says honeypot. Is it honeypot?
No.
Okay.
DMZ zone. That's what DMZ.
Gotcha.
So you can set up a DMZ. That's what it's called, and that way you can. And it kind of acts like a honeypot. Also, you can actually allow access to just certain areas of your network in this DMZ will keep it contained. So like you could, if you wanted to run a FTP server or something like that, you could just point that DMZ NIC at, for anonymous logins, they're only going to this area and that's all they're going to get.
Right.
And it doesn't actually get into your personal any further in than that area. Or it's kind of an extra layer of protection.
Cool. It's neat stuff. Good alternatives. What else?
I'm actually looking at trying to talk my boss into letting me do something like this at the school, but I can't find a good time when I can shut the network down.
I can imagine.
Right now we have a dedicated Cisco ASA firewall that's, in fact, it's on loan from another school because our original one before I started there went bad, and we borrowed this one from another school, and it's due to go out anytime.
Really?
we're limping along on it.
Oh man.
So I've been wanting to try something like this, one of these Linux distributions out, but I don't know how. That's why I was wanting to call in and talk to Rainey about this, whether he thought something like this would handle what kind of traffic and, bandwidth limits this would, something like, since since this is running in software and not hardware like the Cisco, dedicated hardware device, it's actually being the options I have here are like, all software, running in software.
Right.
So I didn't know if there was any performance. I'm sure there's some, performance hits you're going to have to take, but whether these could be used in a small business environment or something, on the size of what our school system is.
He says, because Matt's in the chat room, he says, Door-to-Door Geek would be better to answer that. He says he doesn't like home-brewed routers like that, which I actually kind of figured. I was just going to say, I kind of figured if you were going to ask Matt this question, he'd say buy a business-class router. I'm putting words in his mouth, but that's what I think he would say. We'll see what he says on the next show.
Yeah. But if you have customers that small, I would think that one of these solutions would work for a small business.
Well, I mean, you're putting $3,000 projector mount stuff in classrooms. Why not just put out the money for a router?
Well, one of these, the Cisco device, just that alone is going to be about the same price. It would be $3,000 to $5,000 for a replacement, and then you have to pay licensing fees to Cisco to get yearly upgrades and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of long-term investment.
Yeah, I don't know how these would be. It's worth a try. I mean, I guess your reputation's on the line.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's like I say, it's not that big a deal. I just to get it set up, and we've got a DMZ on our Cisco that I have to go with. I need some time. I should have done this during the summer when there wasn't anybody in the buildings, and I could have taken, had the network down for a day to have to play around with it.
Cool. All right. Did you want to go over anything else?
Well, just maybe touch on a few topics. Like I mentioned previously, we're a Novell house. I suppose everybody's heard the news that Novell got purchased this week.
I didn't know that.
I don't know what that's going to do for the, how we know Novell now. Whether they're going to keep it intact or.
Who bought them?
There's some. Believe it or not, it's a group that Microsoft has a hand in.
Awesome.
And no, it's not awesome.
I know, I was being sarcastic.
Microsoft will probably charge you double what we're currently paying for it,
right?
Or break it up and sell it off, and Novell that we know will no longer be. What the reason why school systems go with Novell, at least smaller school systems where there's not as much money available, is you can, with your license agreement with Novell, you can install the Novell server software on as many servers as you want. You don't get charged for every time you have an instance of their server running like Microsoft does.
Huh.
So most of we have a mixture of Novell, and we do have to have some Microsoft servers in our environment. Currently, we have, I think, about a dozen servers, and over, I'd say out of that 12, 9 of them, 8, I'd say 7 or 8 are Novell Linux servers, and the other 4, the remainder are Windows servers. And that's because of the software it has to run. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have Windows, I'm sure. But
okay.
So anyway, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Novell, because Novell actually owns SUSE Linux. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
That's going to be very interesting.
So hopefully they don't do something bad.
We'll see.
Or maybe it will be good. Maybe I can go to a total Linux network. And then another thing we're currently working on right now is I don't know if you've heard of Citrix Zen virtualization. We're starting to virtualize our existing 12 servers right now. We're expecting that we can actually, on this Zen server, that we're going to actually be able to virtualize 75% of our actual servers. There's only going to be a few that will have to actually be dedicated machines after we get fully virtualized. So and it's really cool. It's kind of like a VirtualBox on steroids.
Right, right. So what, are you just going to run it on a beast of a machine?
Yes, it's got there are actually 2 server machines that actually run this Zen software, and that's what you actually spin up your virtual servers on. And then we have then we just bought HP bought out this company called Left Hand. They were a SAN storage company, so now HP owns them, and we bought a SAN storage unit. So now we've got all kinds of storage. We were just limping along on a server that had 1 terabyte, and we were getting close to filling that up. So now we've got like a 7 terabyte SAN storage now.
Wow.
So that's making life a lot nicer. And all of our student and everybody's personal files are actually running off a virtualized Novell server right now. So that's working out really nice.
Cool.
So anytime I want a new server, I can just click with about 6 mouse clicks. I can spin up a new virtualized server and play around with it. If I mess it up, I just delete it and start over.
Yeah,
so
that's probably exciting for you.
It's really neat. So right now I'm trying to create a new virtualized fog server, because when I started on the fog, when I first started with fog, I just had a spare machine in it. I think it only had 120 gigabyte storage. I pretty much got that filled up, because I have to keep an image of each machine. And we have 5 different machine types now, so each machine has at least 1 or 2 different images. So each image, takes up storage space.
Sure.
So I was pushing the limits of that 120 gigabyte server I started with. So I'm trying to get that virtualized, and I've got a 300 gigabyte slice out of that SANs dedicated for new image storage. So that's something I've been working on in the last few weeks.
That sounds cool. That's going to be a nice change for you. Make your job easier.
Yeah, and then plus it's going to, by cutting out over half of our physical servers, it reduces your energy usage. Of course, in the server room, we have to run an air conditioner, so that'll reduce the cost of cooling that room.
Sure.
And then it's all the physical maintenance of a server. So it's a win-win for a larger environment where you can virtualize servers.
Sure. That sounds great.
And then, a few weeks ago, we upgraded all of our switches, which was I think it ended up being like 9 different switches we actually have 3 physical locations. We've got a high school, an elementary, and a administration building. And we ended up on a Saturday. I had to do this on a Saturday since school had already been in session, so I worked the whole day, like 12 hours, helping these guys. We had an outside firm do this, but I helped assist, because I don't know anything about Cisco. But they came in and we swapped out all of our switches on Saturday and got that all set up.
Why? Why did you do that?
Because all our old switches were like 2 years out of warranty. They were getting ready to die. Plus, they weren't gigabit yet; they were still 10/100.
Right.
So now we're up to full gigabit on our network now. Plus, they couldn't. The fiber we have between buildings, we had 10 gigabit capability, but we weren't able to utilize that with the old switches. So now we've got a 10 gigabyte link between all the buildings instead of the 1 gigabyte. And so it is just and then plus, with all the, every time you add technology, you're just putting that much stress on your network. And we're just, all the time the internet, the teachers are using these projector systems are going, to the internet to use content from the internet. And it's got to be delivered to all them computers in a fast and timely manner.
Right.
So that's helped out a bunch in getting that upgraded.
Huh.
Cool.
Cool.
And then here over Christmas break, there's going to be me and our technology teacher I mentioned earlier, we're going to subcontract out running all new cabling to install a whole new wireless in all 3 locations where we can have, constant, seamless wireless throughout the building. So you can be walking around with your iPad or netbook and have connection anywhere in the building, and you won't drop signal anywhere. So
that sounds cool too. You got some fun projects you're working on.
Yeah, and like I say, and I'm learning every time we do something new. I learn something new, so it's been a big learning experience, and I just enjoying the heck out of it. It's like being a PC tech on steroids.
I believe it. You
still get to still get to do the the standard PC tech work, and then get to deal with the big larger network environment and servers and stuff that you normally wouldn't at home. So it's a good job. I really like it.
Yeah, it sounds like a great job. You always got new challenges every day. It's got a little bit of everything. I think it's cool. All right, well, that was good stuff. You want me to read some emails now?
Sure.
All right, hang on one sec. I think we do have a voicemail. Let's do the emails first. Let's see how many we got here. Before we do emails, let me just make a quick announcement. We need guests for Podnutz Daily, so you need to sign up, please. You could do that at Podnutz Daily. I'm sorry, you can do that at podnutz.com/guests. The sign-up sheet is a little different than it used to be because we're getting spammed in there. So it's actually a part of the forums now. So if you go to podnutz.com/guests, read the post, read all the writing in the post, you will understand what to do. It's very easy, and encourage people to come on the show. We need more guests, guys. There's no guests lined up from now to eternity. So let's fill it up, if you don't mind. All right, let's talk. Let's go over some emails here. And I'm getting a little bit of a tap from you over there, Kevin. Let me see. Okay, it stopped. All right, this is a post in the forums, and let me get to it. Sorry, guys. We're not going to do that one now because I can't get to it. Correction on DBX. Okay, this is a email. It says, I wrote you about the older BTX form factor mentioned in reply to an email on Podnutz Daily 281. Intel did push a BTX a few years ago and tried to make it an industry standard, but I've discovered that there is... Hang on one second. Kevin, is there something banging in that room?
It's probably my headset here. Every time I move, it kind of pops.
Yeah, that pop is coming through the mic. All right, it stopped. Good. All right, here we go. But I've discovered there is a DTX form factor which is designed for SFF enclosures. From what I've read, one of the key features of the DTX design is that it's cheap for manufacturers to produce. I'm assuming that Tony's email was actually asking about the DTX form factor in building an SFF PC. That is in regards... That's from Blaine? Yeah, that's in regards to a... email we got earlier about DTX, BTX. We couldn't quite figure it out. And
if I remember right, when I was taking my A+ certification, I read about these BTX boards. They were kind of like I say, they were a design that Intel came out with, and they were supposed to be the next revolution of board layouts, where it's supposed to make the airflow through the case better because everything was turned around from whatever was the current popular design. They were trying to come up with this new design, and they didn't gain a foothold in them. I can't remember why they didn't, but
okay, well that's helpful. Next email is from Herb. He says, Steve, thank you for your great series of shows. I learned a lot and continue to do so. I have a question about Square Up. Square Up is that service that you get on your iPhone that has the credit card swiper, so you can just swipe credit cards right through it. He says, I believe Door Geek had mentioned it on a Linux for the Rest of Us episode, and it was listed in the show notes for episode number 283. When I looked at the software, you can indeed get the reader for free, but it requires you to give them your social security number. Not knowing anything about this company other than what the site is telling me about themselves, I'm comfortable in giving out that level of info. Has Door or anyone else had an issue with doing so, and have any of you had issues with using the tool? I think using a tool like this would be great for service techs, but better to be safe than sorry. Again, thanks for great work, Herb. You know, a way to check the legitimacy of sites is check their Alexa rank. If they're under 100,000, they're pretty much legit because they get tons of traffic. I don't know what SquareUp gets, but I see SquareUp being used all over the place. I think I don't know, but it appears that they're reaching a level of legitimacy that you can be comfortable with. But it's a good question. If anybody has any input on that, let us know. And that's from Herb. This one's from Josh. He says, "Hey Steve, Tens here." That's Josh. Tens is his nickname. Just listen to the show where you're talking about WinSock Fix briefly with TechHead PC. WinSock Fix is a tool that runs the command netsh winsock reset. It is a GUI tool for running that command. The command basically resets your entire TCP/IP stack. Sometimes it can get corrupt by viruses or other reasons. Another tip about internet access problems: check the hosts file and make sure there are no fraudulent entries. Viruses can implant lines that lead to redirects or blocking of access. Keep up the good work. Hope you get that Podnutz Pro show going. Would be a great learning tool for all of us technicians. Well, Tens, we're going to be doing that show right after this one. All right, this one's from Mike. He says, "Hey, Steve, my Acer laptop fell, and now the screen just looks like an Etch-a-Sketch screen. It lights up, but that's all. Can you recommend a place I can order an LCD replacement that has a good reputation? And is there such a thing as a universal LCD replacement, or do I have to purchase one just made for Acer?" Well, I talk about my favorite eBay seller for laptop screens all the time. You should know, Mike. You should know this by now. It's DVD Super 999 on eBay. That's where I used to buy all my screens from, and you guys have been giving me great feedback on her as well. So order from her. There's no universal LCD replacement. You don't have to, and you don't buy one made by Acer. You could just buy a third-party one made for your computer. Just do a search for the model number of the screen on eBay, and you'll be able to find that.
Get the serial number and the model number off that LCD.
You get it. It's better to get it off the LCD than using the model number off the laptop. You get more of an exact fit. Plus, you save some money sometimes too.
I'll second you on the DVD Super. She did me right because I bought a LCD screen and that wasn't the problem, and she took it back.
Oh wow!
And refunded my money.
That's great, man. I keep hearing good things about her. You got to tell her that Podnutz is sending her the traffic, because she might think that she's obviously doing a great job. But we talk about her all the time. All right, lots of complaints. Okay, somebody mentioned a site called Saveology. I can't remember who it was, but Jerry says lots of complaints about Saveology.com, as discussed on episode 283. There's a rebate scam on Google search. Okay, so be wary of that site, guys. Jerry also says upgrading from a single-core AMD chip to dual-core requires a new HAL, which is hardware abstraction layer, at least in Windows XP. If you drop a dual-core in as a replacement for single-core CPU, Windows will only see and use one core. You can demonstrate this using utilities available from AMD. There is a way to change the HAL on a registry, but this technique is way beyond my pay grade. That's from Jerry. He also says if you look in the device manager, you need to see under computer. If you look in the device manager, you need to see under computer. You need to see ACPI multiprocessor. It's easy to get fooled because when you look in the device manager under processors, you will see both cores. You can also easily be misled by control panel system general, which shows the processor as multi-core. Thanks, Jerry. Hey guys, if you're going to send an email, it would be helpful to me because I lose track. Just say in reference to blah before the email. Because sometimes I read the emails late and they don't quite match up to what we're talking about. Thanks for that, Jerry. This is from Kevin. He says, I got this in my email today. Is it legit? Home office is in their home office is in Africa. It makes me wonder if it's a scam/spam. I'm also really enjoying Podnutz Pro. Keep up the good work. Here's what the email he got. Hello, how are you? I'm Flora Smith, the Director of Works at Action Aid International. We need to know if you're capable of repairing computers in large volumes. The organization distributed few computers to a missionary home in Cyprus, and their objectives was to hold a free computer training section for the kids at the mission home. We got information that the computers all malfunctioned, and they are shipping the computers back to us. We need to fix them all and have it returned in time. Are you available for this job? We need your urgent response to this ad. Kevin, do not answer that email. I did skim through this, and we talked about a little bit about before, but now that I read it out loud, do not answer this email. First of all, they called it an ad. I mean, come on. And second of all, it's just there's outpoints all over the place on this. I've seen scams like this in the past. Use your good judgment on this. If you have a little feeling in the back of your mind that this is fake, it's fake. So try to stay local. You don't have to go to Africa to get computers.
Just for clarification, that was not sent by me.
That's awesome. Thank you. It wasn't you. It's just Reliant in the chat room. This is not from Kevin Wisher here. But I think that Reliant sent it to us as just an educational thing for others. So I mean, I'm pretty sure he knew that this was not okay. But as I read it out loud and we talk about it, I hope everybody else realizes that it's not okay. There's outpoints, and I've seen it before. So I wouldn't do it personally. Thanks for that, Reliant. All right, that's it I'm going to do for now. Yeah, we just went over an hour. I will play the voicemails next show, guys, which will be next Tuesday. Got some good voicemails here. So that's going to be it for today's episode of Podnutz Daily. I want to thank Kevin for... Kitty cat, you can't come up here right now. I want to thank Kevin for coming on the show. Hey, Kevin, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. I enjoyed all the shows you do. Listen to them all, so keep up the good work.
Thanks a lot. Come on anytime. Like I said before, the guest page is open. And let us know what happens with these future projects, your wireless and the other stuff that you were working on. It sounds pretty exciting.
I'll try to schedule another visit maybe after we get the wireless up and going in the school. That'll probably be sometime in February.
Cool. Well, again, thank you very much, and thank all of you who are watching and listening. We're going to do an episode of Podnutz Pro now, so stick around. We're going to start in a couple minutes. And that's going to be it for Podnutz Daily for today. We will see you next time.